Good evening, everybody. It's again Thursday night, which means we have another Eisenhower Speaks Confederate moment. Again, we're going to follow up on last week where I talked about the black soldiers in the Confederate Army. We're going to be specific about this one. We'll tell you a little story. You will see, we'll put up here on the screen, you'll see a picture of a battle flag. It's actually an actual battle flag. And what you're looking at in this battle flag is the 31st Virginia battle flag. The first bunting. In other words, this was the first flag they issued out of the Army of Northern Virginia for this regiment. You'll see that it's highly damaged because it was in a lot of battles, and actually over 40 different battles. And this flag, as you will see, has been tattered and it has been preserved by the ancestors of the regimental colonel and stuff, and given to the UDC. United Daughters of the Confederacy, and they now have this in their possession. And actually, this flag is actually at the Memorial Building, the UDC Memorial Building here on Arthur Ashe Boulevard in Richmond, Virginia. And it's not really on display. If you know where it is in their archives, you can see it. And I've had the privilege of seeing this flag. Well, what's interesting about this flag is the way it's tattered. And if you see the flag, it's kind of the way it is. We can't really straighten it, but the way that it's pictured, it's actually pictured wrong. If you see on the bottom, it looks like everything is torn away on this thing. That's where the pole, that's where it was attached to the pole. In other words, all that was shot away from the pole. So you'll see that when you see the picture of this. This flag, as I said, has seen over 40 different engagements. Some major battles, some major skirmishes. This day, the flag had a lot of its damage was done in a little old battle up in Maryland called Sharpsburg. That's Antietam for you damn Yankees. Sharpsburg. And so Sharpsburg is where the 31st Virginia went out into the West Woods, and they stood there and they basically slaughtered each other. And that was where this flag was actually shot up so badly. And as you will see, the regimental history of this flag is interesting because it says that on that day, in that battle, the color sergeant, that is the regimental colored sergeant, the color bearer, was shot dead. And as he went down, another soldier picked it up, but it really wasn't a soldier. It's listed on this flag as a colored servant picked this flag up and held that in the battle as they continued on the battle. And then he was shot dead. There actually was a third fellow that picked it up on that day. Now, let's talk. I said a colored servant. Now, what does that mean? Well, we're talking about a colored servant. Some black guy walking down the street sees a battle and says, oh, I want to go over there and pick up a flag? Didn't work that way. The story of this is you have to understand how a regiment in the Confederate Army bivouacked. In the morning, when they were having their breakfast and stuff in the camp, they broke camp, and the servants who were there, and some of these would have been body servants to some of the officers. It also might have been, in some cases, they might have been the bodyguards to certain officers as well. So you could have had a colored servant. It could also have been a combat support element, and that would be the cooks, the teamsters, the body servants, the bodyguards, all types, the blacksmiths, all types of regimental soldiers who were not combat soldiers. They were not line soldiers. But the 31st Virginia, when they tore down camp, they would have marched out into battle, and behind them would have been the combat support. These would have been the teamsters. This would have been the cooks. This would have been everybody attached to the unit, and their job during the battle would be to continuously bring the wounded off of the front line into the back, where they would be given to the aid station, or they might have been supplying ammunition. So the colored servants, which were not necessarily all black, but you would have had slaves. You would have had slaves, non-slave, free black men. You had all kinds of combat support that would have stood behind the unit in the line of battle, and they would have kept the unit functioning during the battle. So this is where the interesting part comes in. So you have one of these. This is listed as a colored servant. We don't know who's whether it was free or whether he was just a servant to one of the officers. We don't know, but his job would have been to take the wounded off of the battlefield and take them back to the aid station. So now you have, in the heat of the battle, the color sergeant is shot dead. The flag is faltering down. So he runs up there in the midst of a battle and picks it up and stands there in the battle line with them, and he is shot dead. In fact, his blood is on that as well. So this is an interesting phenomenon for you people who say that, A, there are no black Confederates, and also in this situation, since we don't know if this is a free man or a bonded man, we don't know. This individual was very brave. I think you consider it very brave. Nobody could tell somebody, hey, go pick up that flag in the middle of a battle. It would not necessarily been his job to pick up that flag during the battle. But he had such a patriotic devotion to the unit. And you have to understand, the combat support, all these men who were the combat support, and some women, because there were cooks in there too, they were loyal to the unit. The unit was everything to them. They knew these individuals. They knew the line soldiers. If he was a cook or something like that, he could very easily have served breakfast to the colored sergeant that morning before he was shot dead. So he might have actually had a personal relationship with him. We don't know. But what we do know is this individual picked that flag up in the line of battle and stood there rallying the troops while they were fighting in the heat of the battle in the West Woods at the Battle of Sharpsburg. After he was killed, like I said, a third person picked it up. But think about the concept here. We're told that black folks hate Southerners. They hated being slaves. They hated white people ever. So why would an individual who was black, and in this case he might have been a slave, we don't know. Why would he pick that flag up after just watching the man who was holding it being shot dead? That is called bravery. That is called immense valor. And we have to remember this when we're dealing with this. They're told we don't want to honor the Confederate soldier, period, but we don't even want to honor the black Confederate soldiers. There's some people, Kevin Levin, who say they don't even exist. But we know that they did, and this is proof of it. And here's an example of an individual who gave his life for the unit to keep the colors flying in a battle so they would not falter. That is something that we have to teach our children. This was a situation where the individual gave his life for the Confederacy. He stood there in the line of battle with that flag, knowing that he would be the target, which he was. And you see how badly the flag is tattered, and that's the picture that we can show again of how badly this flag was tattered. And this was amazing how this individual did this. Now, let's talk for a moment. Why do we not know his name? And we don't. And we've done research and trying to find his name. We're looking at personal journals and stuff, and still the research continues. My guess is that he is buried up on the battlefield. He's up there on the battlefield, and he's in an unmarked grave, as many of those Confederate soldiers are. So if you go to Sharpsburg and you walk the battleground over where the 31st Virginia fought, he is probably laying over there in the dirt somewhere in an unmarked grave, as other Confederate soldiers are. This is why these monuments are so important to us, because a lot of our men did not come home. They did not come back from the battlefield. We don't know where they are. They're not in a marked grave. They're just buried on the battlefield where they threw dirt over them and walked away. So we don't know where this individual was, and we don't really know his name. But it's an extraordinary situation where you have an individual who did not need to pick up a flag and hold it, did so. And think about it. Think of the questions that run through your mind. Why is that important? For all you liberals and all you snowflakes out there who keep saying that the black Confederate soldier didn't exist, or that the slaves wanted to run away, or all this kind of stuff, you don't know who the Southern people are. The Southern people are a proud people. We are black, we're white, we are red, and yes, we're even Asian, we're yellow. We have proudness in our veins, all of us do. Black and white, red and yellow, all of us do. And it's important for you all to realize that the black Confederate soldier gave a lot to the Confederate Army. In fact, they were part of it. They were an integral part, as I talked last week. We could not have fought these battles without them. But the fact that this individual held that flag in the line of battle tells a lot about what he was thinking and how he was devoted to the cause. That should sink into your brain, and you should start thinking about that not this little concept that you're being told that somehow these black soldiers were not loyal to the Confederacy. That's ridiculous. They were loyal because they were loyal Southerners. They were fighting for their family. They were fighting for their friends. They were fighting for their families. Again, I would love to know who this individual is. Hopefully, one day I'll come across a journal. We've read several journals that talk about this part of the battle, but he is not named. He's named as a colored servant, but we don't know anything else about his name other than the bravery that he had that day. So as we go through, I just want you to realize that the history you're being told is not the whole story. In fact, most cases, the story that you're being told are lies. And when you have a unit such as the 31st Virginia, and that battle flag, which meant everything to that unit, that shows that even someone who was a non-combat, but who was a non-combat soldier rather than just a combat support soldier, had the pride of that unit and the love of that flag also, to go pick that flag up and to present it on the field of battle and be shot dead. And now that individual, we cannot mourn them. We don't know his name. He does not have a grave. He does not have a statue to him. We don't know who they are. So whenever you start tearing down these Confederate statues throughout our country, the South, you're tearing down his memory too. You're tearing down all the memory of the soldiers who did not come back and all the soldiers who did not get marked graves. There's so many, there are literally thousands of them throughout the South. I mean, I would say there's tens of thousands. I know of tens of thousands here in Richmond alone. And here you have the battle up at Sharpsburg, where this individual never made it back into Virginia. And again, this is a sad, sad thing. We want to disregard the valor and the bravery of the soldier, the Confederate soldier. And they fought for the South just as hard. The black soldier fought just as hard for the South as the white soldier, because they were brothers. They were brothers in arms. And they loved each other, and they gave their lives to protect each other. I want you all to remember this, and this is a very important thing. And like I said, someday you might be able to see this flag if you get into the UDC building down there. It's an interesting flag to look at. And the damage that it has been through. It's kind of amazing to see. There are still bloodstains on that flag. The flag was taken directly from the soldiers. It was given to the colonel's wife. She kept it and then handed it down through the family. And it ended up at the UDC building in the 1960s. And that's when they framed it like that, to preserve it. And it's an amazing story, one that we should always tell our children, that Southerners fought this war to protect Southerners. We wanted our freedom. We did not want to live under tyranny. And that was the reason that we fought. And when you have stories like this, it does not fit the template of all the liberal nonsense out there. So think about that as you look at this flag and the honor that the men who fought and died under this flag. It's an amazing thing. So y'all have a good evening, and we'll talk to you next Thursday. Bye-bye.